Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Sunday, November 7th, and you know what that means. It is time for another evening of Sunday Night Magic.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Javi. Thank you for joining me here on the Variable Play Network. This is Sunday Night Magic, where we talk about Magic the Gathering, primarily about focused on the commander format of Magic the Gathering, but not like strictly about commander. And joining me today, we have our guest from one of our frequently um, mentioned sponsors. We have the CPO of the Guild of Mages, Marco. Thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you for having me, Javi. Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, so tonight is going to be an interesting topic. So
Mm,
I recently got to play Magic again with my friends thanks to Marco, and um some
friends.
conversation came yeah, some conversation came up again regarding certain aspects of Commander and this format of Magic that we love playing. And I come from really a competitive background in Commander. I primarily play competitive EDH, otherwise known as CEDH. I do play casually, but I'd like to say that I have my biases. So when we start talking about cards that are overpowered, or when we're talking about cards that should or shouldn't be banned, I don't think that I provide enough of a perspective from a casual player, or even from like a perspective of kitchen table magic. So I thought that this would be a great opportunity to have a person who is involved with so many magic groups to be on the show. So I guess before we jump into our conversation, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself to our audience. There's one person watching, but I'm sure there'll be more. But if there, introduce yourself, tell everyone about what you do, and then maybe talk about the Guild of Mages.
Okay. I'm Marco. I'm the CPO, Chief Pasabay Officer. That's the service that we provide at the Guild of Mages. We help out MTG players trade their cards to Card Kingdom for the cards that they need that are harder to get here in the Philippines at a reasonable rate. So that's what I'm doing this pandemic. But been playing since the dark. I think that's
Wow,
like
the
90.
dark.
I think that's 94.
Yeah, wow, that's a really old set.
I was in college, and my friend and we stumbled upon Magic the Gathering in the mall, and we got two starter decks, and we shared the five colors, not knowing anything.
Okay,
So
so you
yeah,
guys bought it with like the starter decks that had a manual in it, right?
yep, revised
Okay, yeah.
revised starter decks, and I got the blue, white, and the green. He got the red and the black. My friend Alex.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's
the
how we
dark, huh?
started. Yeah,
I
and I started.
started. I think Ice Age was already out.
Okay, so that's one expansion after.
Yeah, and there's already Chronicles, the one that had like the
Ah,
Dark Legends, like the reprint set that no
the
one
white
wants.
border.
Yeah, the white bordered one. All right.
I
So yeah, before we jump into the topic, I'll also like to let everyone who are watching know that I'll be doing my best to monitor all of the comments, and we'll try to share everyone's comments and opinions. So today we're talking ban list. We are definitely going to be sharing our opinions. These are not anything like rules or set in stone. These are just our thoughts and opinions, and we'd definitely like to hear from you. So if you guys have also, cards that you feel should be banned or unbanned, but actually I think today's episode will be really more about unbanning certain cards. So we can go through that. Hey, and we have
mm,
our first comment. Hi KO, thank you for joining us this evening.
so
All right, so for tonight, I did create a little bit of a presentation. So let me just load that up here. All
open-minded
right.
ka ba?
Yeah. Open-minded ka ba? Thank you for coming to this coffee shop with me. Oh, the unban hammer. Yes, today's episode is really more about justifying the unbanning of certain cards. Then I think
Mhm.
that you know this is gonna be a lively conversation to say the
Oh yeah.
least. So yeah, we prepared five choices from each of us, and to give everyone a little bit of background, let me jump over to the presentation. So the rules committee, that's the RC or the Commander RC, is a independent group that is not connected with Magic the Gathering or Wizards of the Coast. So the format of EDH or Commander is actually externally handled, which I think is to the benefit of the format as well. There is the rules advisory group, but they don't necessarily set the ban list. But some of them are members of Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering, and some are also like sponsored content creators. So, they also have like their perspective on the situation. Um, the current ban list for Commander shows 45 cards. These are what you see on screen are all of the cards that are not allowed to be played in Commander as a card in your 99 or as a commander, should it be a legendary creature. All right. So we prepared five cards that we wanted to talk about today and, share why we feel that it doesn't make sense for it to be banned or maybe petition for it to be unbanned. So, Marco, are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Let's jump to number 5. All right. So, number 5, we have two cards here. Marco's number 5 choice is the Prophet of Krufix, while mine is the Paradox Engine. Um, as a guest of tonight's episode, would you like to go first?
Oh, thank you. I think I played Prophet of Crewfix in the Oathbreaker format when it was still out, and it's kind of strong. I understand, but in EDH, if you don't have anything to deal with a creature such as this, because definitely it's very abusable, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like a Seedborn Muse and then a ley line of anticipation rolled into one for 5 mana.
Right.
So, it's strong, very strong, but it's blue and green. So it even pushes that uh, mana ramp of uh, Simic more, right?
That's right.
But I think in EDH you have to have your toolbox of how to deal with these types of people, these types of creatures. And it would be nice to have, you know, around again or around. I don't know when. I guess this was banned right shortly after Teros block came. That's from
Yeah,
Teros,
it
right?
was a pretty early ban.
Mm.
Looking at it, it is 5 to cast, which is the exact same casting cost of Seedborn Muse.
Mm.
Seedborn happens to be a 2-3.
Hmm.
2-4. This is a 2-3, which means that it's actually easier to kill, to be honest.
Mm.
It untaps all creatures and lands, while the Seedborn untaps all permanents, so it
Yeah.
includes artifacts. So it could actually be argued that this is a weaker version. It has color restrictions of blue and green, and it only get untaps creatures and lands. And pretty much it also says here that it untaps during each other player's untap step. So it doesn't even, it doesn't really work during your turn. It relies on other opponents' turns. The only reason why this does kind of fit in to becoming bannable is because of the second half that you can cast creatures as if they had flash. The fact that you are untapping all of your resources and can suddenly sneak in anything you want is one of the major reasons or philosophies why it was unbanned. It was banned in the first place.
Yeah, but
Because yeah, you can always argue that it is technically worse than Seedborn, but the flash part is what makes it really good.
but anytime I run Seedborn, I have to have my ley line of anticipation anyway. So it's pretty much the same.
Right. Hey Ron, thank you for joining
Oh,
us this evening.
hey
You know what?
Ron.
I would argue though that the one thing that makes this kind of unbalanced is that the colors of blue and green really don't even need this. They're doing fine. Like with the amount of flash and untap effects that they do have, this is like redundancy. And okay, a 2-3 is actually quite easy to kill because I play with a lot of 2-2 creatures that don't even survive a pyroclasm, but they've already made so many cards that deal 3 damage or up that it can be very easy to kill this thing.
But we've seen how Simic is now with Kodama of the North 3. Which
Yeah,
one is it? And Shakashima. I mean, putting this guy in doesn't really change that commander deck.
agreed.
And definitely our friend who made that deck in our play group really abused that. We've seen it.
Yes.
So
Speaking of which,
oh, here we
hi,
go.
hi,
Hello. Hello,
Gino.
hello.
Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for joining the episode. So, actually, you know what? With the same idea in mind, I think that they did ban this originally because of that power level. But sorry, arguably the other card called Seedborn Muse just does about the same, which is not at flash speed to creatures. But there are several existing combos such as Dramatic Scepter, which is
Mm-hmm.
Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal, that
Loop.
pretty much can provide an infinite loop.
Mm-hmm.
So there are already combos and mechanics that surpass this. So
Yeah.
it could be argued that this isn't as strong as people think it is.
Nope.
So, taking that into mind, let's go over to my card, which happens to also be related to untapping.
Mm.
This one here, I kind of ranked my top five that this is the most unlikely to be unbanned.
Yeah.
And this is Paradox Engine. Paradox Engine costs five and it's five colorless, so it can go in any color deck. I understand that. And it's legendary. You can't have more than one of it.
You
Okay.
only need one.
Yeah, whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. It does pretty much what Seedborn does too. It is abusable because you
Mm.
can technically run like infinite combos with this,
Mm-hmm.
but
What
you
deck do
can
you have
also
this in before?
this ran perfectly in my Urza deck.
Yes. I was in the receiving end of that
Yeah, I
one.
mean it got banned when Urza was I think 2 months into the introduction of
Mhm.
Urza Grand Artificer.
MH1, right?
hmm
Yeah.
But I would argue that it costs five, so
Okay.
it's not going to come down as early as you think. You are
Ah.
required to play a spell to trigger it.
Mm.
So you are already putting up mana resources, putting
Mm.
down the paradox, and
Mm.
then casting a spell.
How many?
You're already committing to about three cards that if it can easily be broken. I've seen the cycle break, and
Mm.
this requires you to consistently be casting spells. You know
How,
how many
how
tax effects they've already added to the game that limits you to just playing one spell per turn?
how many zero casting cost artifacts did you have in that said deck?
Um, maybe
20%.
four. No, no,
4?
you're thinking of the different deck. That is the
Joyra.
Joyra.
Ah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this could technically run in a Joyride deck as well, but
Mm.
you don't actually want to untap any of those things. They're used
Hmm.
to draw more cards.
Yeah.
It's a totally different mechanic. This here wants you to play a spell so that you can untap everything. Like on an elf deck, you'll get all of your mana dorks standing up and you can keep casting spells. But
Yep.
you could also easily run out of cards.
Hmm.
So
If you use it in an elf deck, then you have to have a beast whisperer, and then you're
yeah,
set.
something to that effect, right?
Mhm.
Unless you're using like a capsize or any spell that has buyback, like Searing Touch, that the
Mm.
card goes back to your hand, and then you definitely can go infinite. But if you're just playing normal cards, even counter spells of any of that sort, you could potentially run out of cards. So it's a stretch. I really cannot see people getting on board with this idea, but I personally want the Paradox engine unbanned.
What was your win condition for that Urza deck again?
Pretty much Urza would cast the entire deck
Mm.
and would be able to generate infinite mana and then
Mm.
force all of your opponents to draw all of their cards and die.
Ah, okay, okay. Mm.
Oh, here we go. Yes, the DJ turntable deck. Yeah, because everything goes up, down, up.
Yeah.
So okay, that was my number five. I guess I'll turn it over to you for your comments. What do you think about Paradox Engine?
Well, I've seen it. I don't hate the card. I love it when I see different people do different things with their decks, and it's always a treat. Even though outwardly I don't like it, I really love the decks that you come up with. I'll say it out now, even though in our group we always hate combo players, but I
Such a
like
such a
I
bitter,
really like.
bitter.
No bitterness. I just really like the way you construct your decks, especially that one. Because when I saw it the first time, I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. I'm a fan of Magic, so first and foremost. So any innovation like that, especially when MH1 came out, it wasn't it wasn't that long till you had that deck already,
Right.
right? So I mean,
Immediately. Yes, because
mm,
prior to that, I was using Azami.
mm,
So
yeah,
that was
top,
actually pretty broken because you can tap a wizard to draw a card.
yep,
And then you can cast a spell, which will
mm-hmm,
untap all of your wizards, and then tap a
mm,
wizard to draw a card. So
mm,
Azami is a good example of how you can break this, but you need a lot of mana.
mm.
So, and then Azami also cost five, and that's with three blues. So you need to pay three blues and about seven colorless mana to get the two of them down. And the chances of that really happening are kind of slim in a mono blue deck, to be honest.
Okay.
So, well, that's why I wanted to put it on this list. But again, I ranked it in a way that a lot of people will argue that what I'm asking for is a dumb idea. So, so be it. Let's move to number four. So, number four, we have Polarian Academy for you and Sundering Titan for me. So, I'll take the lead on this one for number
Mm-hmm,
four.
mm-hmm,
Sundering Titan is an 8 to cast. That's not cheap. But okay, in the game of Commander, there are ways to cheat in creatures. I get that. So let's not take the or the cost of the spell into consideration. You can
mm.
animate it. You can um, cheat it in using any other spell or effect like raise bore or sneak attack and other effects like that. It is an artifact creature. It is 710, so it's pretty big. And when it enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, which means that when it comes in and when it dies, it happens twice, that choose a land of each basic land type and then destroy those lands. This is oppressive and it is one of the biggest no-nos in Commander. Land destruction is highly shunned upon. That you could be kicked out of play groups or not invited back because of breaking lands. It is so anti-magic, I get that. But you're playing with four players. Okay, sorry, well, you and three other players to be precise. When you put this down, you are going to draw the hate of three players. You're not gonna survive much longer after you put this down.
Yep.
And if you are moving up power levels, the chances of you playing against a player that even actually runs basic land types, I mean, there'll be dual lands, sure. You'll be able to break dual lands. That's sure. That's certain. But the amount of non-basic lands that people are running these days have maybe doubled or tripled. Every set introduces new non-basic lands that people can run.
Just like the last set.
Yeah, the last sets introduced even from our first example a while ago, Modern Horizons introduced a
Mm.
new set of pain lands that you can even
Inlands.
use to draw. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have basic land types.
Nope.
The only thing that might have been added into this is like or a new target were the triome lands because there are three
Mm.
land types.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That one is brutal. You will probably lose your triome every time. And they have added in a lot of new creatures and artifacts that prevent come into play effects. There used to be maybe one or two, and there are at least eight now, which means that there are ways to stop this when it comes into play. The leaves battlefield effect is, I don't really think that there's a lot of cards that can stop that. But you're gonna have to go through some hoops to get it in the game and then kill it, just to get an
Well,
effect to break lands.
well, can't you soul bind it with Dead Eye Navigator and just have fun?
Yeah, every time it flickers. Yeah, that's why there is a way to do that. That's why it can really be done to be as oppressive as possible. But maybe after two loops, you're not taking out command towers. You're not taking out City of Brass.
Or
Like,
Gaze Cradle?
yeah, you're not going to take out a Gaius Cradle or even your example here on screen as the
Mm.
Tolarian Academy. These are
Yep.
non basic lands. So you're really going to hit a wall. But okay, if you're in a casual table, and this is why I specifically wanted to have a different perspective in this episode, because in a casual table, you may actually get someone to quit playing Magic when you run this. So
Oh, I mean, again, it's 8 to cast. If you have a quicker way to do it, then you might win the first game, but the next few games, they'll
oh
be
yeah,
waiting. You know how it is. It's
imagine running this with Myriad.
Blade of Selves, no?
It's
Or Helm
it's
of Host.
yeah, it's pretty. It can really be broken, but that also requires that it has lands that it can break. Otherwise, it's just a 7/10, which okay, it's pretty good, but there are other creatures too.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that one, it might be painful, but definitely you can do something to stop it. And you're right, it's not that abusable up to a certain point.
And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like this is that the Sundering Titan is, I'm going to say, what, like a $10 card, if not even less. I'm sure it got cheaper as it's been reprinted so many times.
Yeah.
Can take out your ultra expensive dual lands. Boo.
Ooh.
I
I
don't
can play
like
with
this.
it next game. Doesn't matter. We're not playing
But
for
okay,
anti.
with just the strict rule of land destruction being really a mortal sin in Commander, I understand why they don't want this in the
It
game. But
is it
it's manageable.
really? It's a mortal sin. I
Well,
remember back.
it's one of the no nos in like the whole rule zero thing. People play land destruction, but half the time when you say that you have a deck that is land destruction, like, don't you have anything else? Like, I used to run a Narset deck with Cataclysm and Obliterate,
Hmm.
and you see the whole table deflate when you
Yeah,
run
well,
cards like that.
Cataclysm's different. But if you have like how many ice storms
Right.
or sinkholes can you have? I remember playing against that in college. For we used to have a fun Thursday night Magic uh, game back in the day, and I still remember that guy's name Jack. He always just came in with his land destruction deck, black green.
That's Acid Rain,
Yeah, acid rain, ice storm.
Sinkhole, Iced
Yeah,
Earth.
yeah, ice storm, and it is what it is, right? But now you have so many artifacts, quick artifacts that get you out of that jam, especially in EDH,
Right.
because you have arcane
The,
signet also.
the amount of treasures that you can produce now as resources.
Yeah.
I mean, people only had one Lotus Petal when this card was banned. You
Mm.
can now have a ton of Lotus Petals thanks to cards like Dockside, which would
Backside.
actually even welcome the Sundering Titan because it's an artifact.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So here, actually, some feedback. Thank you. So, okay,
Oh,
Mikey, thank you for
Mikey.
joining the show. So, okay, past a certain level, mass destruction is okay. Yeah, and in high competitive, that's why, from my perspective, I'm totally fine with land destruction. But it does annoy people. That's correct. And um, mass land destruction like Armageddon or MLD spells, yes. It can actually even grind the game to a total standstill.
Mm.
That okay, you did your Armageddon, now what? Like we
Yep.
all just stare at each other while we try to recover our board states. Like you better win when you do something like that.
Oh yeah, but there's such a thing as scorched earth. So if he's not having fun, then everyone's not having fun.
So, okay, with lands in mind, we turn over to your number four, and we are talking about a very infamous legendary land, the Tolarian Academy. So, take it away.
Well, it came out during the Urza block, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't playing that then because I quit Magic for a long time. So I don't know what the background is. But looking at it with today's EDH players' lens, I don't see why it would be banned because you still have Gaze Cradle and Cabal Coffers, which are two two lands that really cater for green and black respectively. Why not blue? That's
right. I mean,
yeah.
even Sarah's Sanctum is legal, so
Yeah, but
that's
no one
the
no one no one plays that.
I know, but just in terms of what are allowed, Sarah's
Mhm.
Sanctum is in, Cabal Coffers is in, and you have Gaia's Cradle. I
Yeah.
don't think that there is a red land that has this effect. So I believe it was Shivan Gorge that it deals one damage to each opponent. So it's not a mana producer.
It's a no. It's for the cycle.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
that's what they call
but
it.
even Cabal Coffers is not from the set either.
Hmm.
So yeah, here we go. Hey, we have someone who commented. Thank you. So let's have that on screen. Turn one, Mana Crypt, Soul Ring,
AJ's.
Signet, and then pretty much yes, Solarian Academy can produce three blue. Yes, this can put you in a very significant advantage, but that can also be said for any of the other lands that we talked about. Okay, Cabal Coffers requires you to have swamps, so it's a little slower. Sanctum needs an enchantment in the game. I get that. And Gaia's Cradle needs a creature. There are zero to cast creatures. So you could actually run the cradle pretty fast.
Jace is
Oh,
a friend of mine that plays in my uh the Rada play group that I play in. It's not my group. I play with them.
Sarah
Yes,
Sanctum and
Mikey.
Mikey runs that, and this is awkward. I used to run Sanctum as well, but I've had some terrible like opening games with
Hmm.
it that it doesn't it really just dirtles. It's one it
No,
becomes a
I,
really
I
useless land.
I had one again in an
Same.
enchantment
Had one
deck,
too.
and it never played it the right way. I mean, Mikey's a friend of ours from ATC's EDH group, and you know he has a lot of decks. He has like a attache case full of
Ooh, so there,
EDH decks. So it's like different themes.
mono white SRAM deck. Yeah, so turn three Sanctum produces at least two white. Okay, that's pretty good. So yeah, the Sanctum is playable, but I think that it's just out of all of the lands we mentioned, it's the least efficient. That
Hey,
maybe that
let's focus back. We're talking about Tolarian Academy, not Sarah
right.
Sanctum.
So
Yeah.
here we go.
Oh,
Yes.
hold on.
So with Urza being printed, there's even less of a chance of the Tolarian Academy being unbanned. I mean, different dynamics in EDH with an always available mana sink, and that
Oh,
that is true. Fair.
you're
It's a
talking.
fair point.
So that's Trashos, I guess. They're talking about.
No, Urza. Urza's ability
Ah,
cost
Urza
five,
pa. My
five
God, yeah.
colorless. So with
Mm.
Urza being added into
Mm.
your viable commanders, Tolarian Academy is very strong in that deck.
But I've seen people abuse Gaze Cradle and Cabal Coffers. So I
Right.
mean, it doesn't. It's why not give it to blue? Let the game go faster. Let's play another one.
True. I will reserve my comments for later on, and you'll
Okay,
understand why.
sure.
So one more. Let's see. So okay, you bought a Tolarian Academy thinking that you'd run it. Ouch.
I'm guilty as that. But that I did that once also, like a band commander. I bought it. It was like a box topper, and then my friends told me it's banned. I gave it back to the guy, asked for my money back. Box topper foil, you know me.
Well, we got a lot of. Thank you for everyone who are chiming in. Okay, yes, having artifact lands also doesn't lend to the Clarion Academy's case, right? But again, I mean,
Well, it
if you're
doesn't.
well, my argument there is when I actually started playing Affinity back in the day, you could have four Seat of Synods, four
Mm,
Darksteel Citadels. So once you have Tolarian Academy into play, you can produce a lot of blue. In the game
okay.
of Commander, that we're talking about what 35, 36 lands, and even if you push to have five artifact lands in there, what are the chances of all of them really showing up during a game?
You put it in a Golos deck and see them shine.
But you can't even play Golos anymore.
I know. I know. I know. I know.
Okay, so let's jump to the next one. Let me just pop open. Let's go to number three. So number three, a very interesting choice on your end. I want to hear about this more. I'll go after you. So please, Chaos Orb, and I got the unlimited version
Oh,
here.
thank you.
It is a 2 to cast mono artifact, which is otherwise now known as a legendary artifact. You
Yep.
can only have one copy of it at a time. Its abilities read as follows: you pay one colorless and you flip Chaos Board over the play area from the height of at least 1 foot. It has to flip at least
A
once,
couple of times. Yeah.
okay, and it's discarded if it doesn't complete a full flip.
Hmm.
The whole idea of why would you flip a card when Chaos Orb lands, any cards that it touched are destroyed, and
Yep.
also Chaos Orb itself. So
Hmm.
this brings in a really weird dexterity mechanic into
It's
play
not
in
that
Magic.
hard. You can you can
Sure.
you can set it. You can aim it and then flip it. It lands straight.
Right. I mean, so yeah,
I started playing Magic wherein this was a viable card in tournaments. I used to go to New York City every month when I was in college to play these tournaments in neutral grounds in New York City. And we always had to practice this just in case. I don't understand why it was banned. Maybe because it was too expensive for the WCDH group, you know. I talked to you. No, no. I told you about the WCDH group, right? See,
yes.
WEDH group, the whiny people that want everything fun banned. I don't understand why this wasn't banned, but it's not that hard. Hero. Oh, here. There.
There has to be a full flip.
Yeah, there.
Well, you know what? The thing is, I understand that having this whole dexterity thing added to the game is a little wonky. But in the game of Commander, if you're playing with four players,
Hmm.
this almost feels targeted because you're really going to go 1 foot above one player's specific play area and flip that card. You're not going to be able to get all three players with this.
You never know how the wind will
unless you
blow.
unless you manage to flip the card and then somehow slide it across the table in a curve, like curving a bullet,
In
wanted style.
in in a legendary story, actually, in one of the world championships, one of the players tore his chaos orb
Okay.
and
Oh,
then
that's
and
what
then
is that
and
what
then
prompted the creation of chaos confetti?
and then rained down his opponent's play side because he knew that he had a chaos orb from the first game, so he moved all his cards all over the
Okay.
board.
Oh, he changed the board state. I get it.
So when he dropped it, it was like confetti, and they let them play it. But how much more chaos do we need from EDH? Every single point of chaos, please. It's more fun. Because the politicking is crazy once that thing comes out. It's like first turn or second turn chaos orb, something's going out. So you gotta move your artifact and your land away from each other.
And I think that one of the things that, yeah, I mean, any cards get destroyed, so even lands. So
It's for
yeah,
fun. Why did we play this game but not we played this game for fun? And chaos. That's the card.
fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
I see some difficulties really getting something like this unbanned because of just the whole flipping card situation. You know, if it actually had a different case, like how they did Oblivion Stone and some of those other destroy effects,
Hmm.
that it doesn't require any dexterity. Like like the whole 1 foot from the play area that you can have to measure it and stuff like that. You're entering Warhammer territory here.
But it's a lot of fun to have. And it's really because you pay 1 mana. You just leave it there. Oh, you're attacking me? I can chaos warp your attacking creatures.
So some comments, yes,
Oh,
it really does sound like it's straight out of an unset, and that's why they
yeah, it
created
is.
chaos confetti,
No,
which
it is from an unset.
you have to pay.
Unlimited.
Yeah, that's true. Touche,
Yes.
touche. Good job.
How about you?
So my number three is a card that was introduced in the Kamigawa block. This is
Mhm.
specifically from the Saviors of Kamigawa, where
Mm.
they tried to introduce flip cards.
Mm.
This is Irayo Soratami Ascendant. Irayo is a 2 to cast 1/1 flyer. Easily killable.
Yep.
Seriously, it
Mm-hmm.
can die instantaneously. A gut shot can take this thing out. Okay?
A
Now,
chaos orb can take it
whenever
out.
the fourth spell of a turn is played, you flip Irayo, and it becomes an enchantment that reads as follows: counter the first spell played by each opponent each turn.
Hmm.
First spell. Okay? So, this was banned because you could easily run 4 spells in a row, like maybe put down a land, put down a mana crypt, put down Irayo, and maybe drop any zero to cast or a Sol Ring or anything, and it flips. Okay, the first spell of each opponent gets countered. That
Hmm.
is such an efficient turn one that you have to really mulligan for. But most of the time when this comes down, it is kill on sight, or the entire table is going to turn on you and kill you immediately.
You know what's
Okay,
more efficient, right? Planes into Sarah Ascendant.
right. You get a better effect, really. A 6/6 flying lifelink for one. And I think that, there are a lot of stacks effects that will limit people to playing just one spell. And like the whole arcane laboratory, you can only play one spell per turn. And now it says the
Mm.
first spell you played every turn is
Mm.
countered. Sure.
Mm.
But there are a lot of creatures that have activated abilities now that can destroy enchantments. It is
Mhm.
very easy to break this enchantment. And once it goes back to the command zone, you're going to have to pay 4 and then cast 4 spells to flip it. The hoops that it's going to go through is just, it's not worth it.
You play that? You play this guy as a commander?
Yes, so
Hmm.
put it in the command zone. It's a 2 to cast 1/1.
Mhm.
So it's like it's guaranteed in your hand every time, and you're mono blue, which means that the table already hates you.
Mm.
And then you have to try flipping it in order to counter the first spell of each player.
Yeah.
Mid game, they're casting more than one spell per turn. They
Mhm.
probably don't care anymore.
Yep. But
So,
Jace, isn't there a Jace that has the same?
and again, there's a very easy way just to bounce permanents. There are a
Is it?
lot of effects that can do this.
Isn't there a Jace that does the same thing, like the counter
Yeah,
the first spell?
a later
Unraveler.
version, they made Jace as it was his ultimate ability.
Mm.
I think it was from the Innistrad block.
Shadows.
Oh yeah, Shadows over Innistrad. Yeah, the
Yeah.
the investigator Jace was
Yeah.
the one that had that effect. So I get why they banned it because of its casting cost and it can efficiently flip over. But I guess you really have to have an optimized deck for this to happen. mean, I used to run this before discovering Commander,
Hmm.
and I used to run it with a bunch of zero to cast Urza bubbles and stuff,
Mm.
and you'd have 4 copies in your
What format?
library. Um, I would say it's probably vintage.
Mm. Yeah, I can see it. Is it banned in vintage?
Nope, not at
Hmm.
all. So it's also easily counterable, to be honest. There's more counters that exist these days, and it's a 1/1,
Mhm.
and stuff like Janet Magistrate can already prevent you from playing this.
Sure.
So I can see a world where this is unbanned and people can play it again. What are your thoughts?
Uh, it's a fun card. We'll deal with it when it comes out. You know, my deck has some spot removal, but I just have to cast another spell before the spot removal. You know,
Right.
so I just leave the chaos orb on the board just in case.
Good call. All
It's a
right.
deterrent. Keeps the people in line. If that's not politicking, I don't know what is. You're attacking me? That's me? Chaos orb on the ano.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even realize until you mentioned that there is no mention of when you can activate this. So you
No,
can do it in response to someone declaring an attack.
no, it's a colon. One
Right.
colon.
There's no tap and it
Naruto
doesn't say
tap.
activate as a sorcery. That's right. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime, really.
Yeah, it's a lot
So
of fun.
here,
Oh.
yep. So I wanted this effect and then add rule of law. Yes, that's the
Mm,
typical way of running it, really.
no.
So if you have anything that limits the number of spells played and then the first spell is countered, I mean, there is even a nullstone gargoyle, but it's like
Mm.
9 to cast and it does the
No.
same thing.
Isn't there like an archon of peace? The flying 4/4 that limits you to one spell?
Yes, Archon of Emeria.
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also Eidolon of Rhetoric, which is the living
Mm.
version of Rule
Yeah.
of Law.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are multiple versions that can work with it.
Ah, there's a tap in it.
Oh, thank you for bringing this up. Okay, so there is a tap on Chaos Orb.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the
A-
clarification, Aaron.
Aaron is our resident combo player in Glorieta in our Thursday group.
I already like you, man.
He plays a combo early on, and we all let him because he has to stand up at 5 because he has to
Oh,
go. So it's
time
like,
limit. Time
yeah,
limit
so
magic. Yes, you
so
should be
it's like
playing
one
combo.
or two times combo. It's like he brings different decks, all combos. We're like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, no problem. Oh, you have to go. Okay, next week again. But he has some funky decks also. That's why I like playing with him. A lot of fun
Okay.
decks. Yeah.
Well, nice to have you on the episode, Aaron. So let's go to our next one. Number two. Number two. So this one's interesting because you brought up something that cost almost as much as a car. Like,
6 pesos for a proxy.
well, okay, you know what? Yeah. I don't I've already mentioned it in previous episodes. I'm not necessarily opposed to playing proxies if you'd like to see if a card is effective for you before you're making that purchase. But you know, in terms of ancestral recall, this is one hell of an investment. So anyone who's watching, look up the price, and you know, your reaction should say everything.
No, the card is there. I don't understand why it's banned. I don't know. I mean, it makes you
I
draw
think
three
I
cards.
think I really think it's because of the efficiency that one to cast to draw 3 cards is just you net 2 cards out of it. So
Okay.
it is banned primarily because of the accessibility of the card, given how expensive and how old it is. So if Wizards or the Rules Committee ever allowed proxy for tournament play, then we don't need to talk about availability. Instead, we just have to talk about its power. Being able to draw 3 cards for one, um, this is like the whole argument that was made for wheel effects, that this is one sided in that you can draw 3 cards and no one
Hmm.
else.
Okay.
But you
Well,
only really get one copy anyway. So what are the chances too?
first and foremost, let's put it. If this thing, first things first, sorry, proxies. As long as your playgroup allows it, then it's fine. Our playgroup is okay because we want to experiment the synergies of different cards with others. And we try to push the power limit, and everyone's the same anyway. We don't really care. We just like having fun. Rule zero is have fun. Just like that's our common rule. But with Ancestral Recall, I don't understand why it's banned. Because you get three cards, great. You get nowadays you can do brainstorm, right?
But you have to put two back.
No, hold on. You have brainstorm and Teferi's Ageless Insight.
Oh, okay. Sure, that's a replace effect. That would
Hmm.
essentially make Ancestral Recall draw six.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, fresh new hand.
No, but I mean, if you had brainstorm, you draw six and put back two.
Actually, you don't put back anymore because it's a replacement effect.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, so yeah, I think that the power level has already progressed to the point that there are cards that can already do this. So sure, it can be argued. I think it's really more about the accessibility of the card.
It's there. I mean, Time Twister is the only Power Nine that's allowed. I mean,
Right, and that's also another interesting debate there, that why only one of them.
that's what I'm saying. Why not the Mox? I mean, you got other Moxen already. And the price is the price, okay? And we understand. But not to be able to play with it even just to proxy, just to try it out. I mean, come on. We're here again, rule zero. We want to have fun with our friends. We don't need an external force to say that it should be banned, but we abide by their wishes. It's a foreshadowing for number one.
Right. So I'll move to my number two, which kind of ties in that this is busted because of a specific Power 9 card. But it's banned in Commander, which is Time Walk.
Mm,
Panoptic Mirror is a 5 to cast artifact, and you can pay X and tap it, remove an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost X from your hand, and it gets imprinted on the mirror. At the
mm.
beginning of your upkeep, you get a copy of the imprinted instant or sorcery. So if you put Time Walk, basically you get a copy every turn.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see why it's really powerful. You can
Mm,
even put Time Warp with cost 5. Okay, but hear me out. You have to pay 5 to put this in the game,
mm-hmm,
even if you cheat it in. Next, you have to pay 5 to imprint something on it and
mm-hmm,
tap it.
mm-hmm,
And then you have to wait for a whole rotation around the table
mm-hmm.
to wait for your upkeep so that you get the effect.
Yes.
Okay? There are so many opportunities to just break this thing
Mm-hmm,
that I get why it's powerful, but it's fragile and has so many steps here. A collector oath could break this and just prevent them from imprinting at all.
I think it's kind of balanced actually.
Yeah, its cost and what you get. Isochron Scepter is actually stronger, but it has a limit of a 2 to cast instant. This one,
Mm.
you can put instant or sorcery, fine. There, you can put Ancestral Recall on this for 1 and basically draw 3 cards every upkeep. So I see its power, but you have to get in the game, you have to give up a card, and then you have to wait for your next turn.
You don't really give up a card because you're gonna
No, you
keep on playing
imprint
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, so here, when you imprint it, and on the next turn someone breaks the Panoptic Mirror, you've lost the artifact and the imprinted card and what
Mm.
you paid to put both in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of risk involved in that. It should have a reward that it makes it worth it. And yes, it is. Imagine sticking a time stretch on this thing. You're
Mm.
talking about 17 mana to get two extra turns every round.
It,
But
it's it's like casting Approach of the Second Sun, and it's on top of your deck. You're just waiting for that next turn. But I don't see anything wrong with it actually. I mean,
No,
okay,
so
you get to use it. Great. Next game, we're waiting for it. You know.
actually, Mikey brings up a good point. You can imprint any speed because it just you pay X and you tap it. Okay, so even if I put down the panoptic mirror and on player three's end step decide to imprint something on it,
Mm-hmm.
that still gave everyone enough opportunities to try breaking the
Mm-hmm.
mirror before it got back to my turn. They have introduced
Of course, in our play group, we wouldn't break it. We'd copy it.
well, and it's arguable that there no one wants to destroy it because it's bad luck to break a
Yeah.
mirror.
I forgot
Facts.
to I forgot to say the main reason why I wanted ancestral recall back is for my Calamax deck.
Calamax. There's a bias here. It's just like I want to draw six. Like
And add the +1/+1 counter.
right.
Yeah.
So me, ancestral recall. I think that there are already cards that do have the same effect. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe its power level isn't as strong as people remember.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also a lot. Well, there is no more hull breacher effects, but something as simple as a Narset and or the Eidolon of the Maze, and you're not drawing anything.
Yeah.
For
I know.
Panoptic,
Narset. Yeah.
yeah, there's
Mm.
there's at least two effects that still exist that prevent players from drawing more cards. Even an Uba mask, that the cards you draw are now out of the game and you have to play it immediately.
No.
So it is arguable that there are ways to stop this, and there are
Notion
even ways
Thief.
to steal it. No, well,
Notion Thief.
Notion
You
Thief
steal it.
stops. It stops tutoring, searching. So this is just draw. You'd probably need to use Praetor's Grasp to go steal this card from an opponent.
No, I mean once the guy casts it, Notion Thief can you can get
Oh, Notion
Notion.
Thief. Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Opposition Agent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Notion Thief can still counteract this. That's true.
Hmm.
Oh, here.
We missed a comment.
Thank you. Yes, Spirit of the Labyrinth was what I was talking
Ah,
about.
yeah. We missed a comment before from my friend Jace. He proxies because he doesn't want to bring $1,000 cradle during casual play. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
a fair point. It's a very fair point.
And everyone in that play group drinks coffee, so you don't want.
Yeah, you don't want an accident.
Yeah, that totally understand.
So I think that there are arguments to be made for both. Me, I'm just really strictly speaking that Panoptic Mirror is very powerful, but
Yeah.
there's so many ways to stop it, and
Hmm.
the setup to get it to do what it's supposed to do um, requires a lot of resources. So you can always
Yeah.
hold them back.
No, you cast Panoptic Mirror now. I'll cast my Wandering Archaic. Go ahead.
Yeah, every time you get a copy, yeah, like, I'll get a
Go,
copy
go
too.
ahead. Thank you, kaibigan. Salamat. There's different ways. Or I play Perplexing Chimera. Oh, Time Walk. Oh, thank you. Here you go. There's so many different ways to mess up your opponent now.
Yeah,
Let's have
that's why.
fun. Right.
So let's move on to the controversial ones. We go
Mm.
to number one. And for number one, we bring up your best friend, Hull Breacher. And the reason why I held back on my comments earlier is the Tolarian Academy. So
You go ahead. You go ahead.
since we already talked about Tolarian Academy, let me just add
Mm.
this in, okay?
Mhm.
You could possibly play this turn one with no
Mm.
artifacts and it doesn't do anything.
Mm.
That the same can be said for Sarah's Sanctum, the same can be said for Gaia's Cradle, okay? So I'm really well here. I just wanted to throw this in. Thank you, Gino. Yes, this is going to be the polarizing part because my argument for Tolarian Academy actually just boils down to one very, very specific argument. Why is Gaia's Cradle allowed and this
Mm.
isn't?
Mhm.
Why are the other lands that produce a buttload of mana for other circumstances
Mm.
allowed in the game and this isn't?
Mhm.
They had to make growing rights of Itlamok to make a second Gaia's Cradle, while they made Storm the Vault, which had to be red and blue, just to
Mm.
make another Tolarian Academy. So they even not just stuck with one color, they end up like forcing you to play two just to
Yeah.
get a copy of this. I get that it's powerful, but it just doesn't seem balanced to me that the other lands like Cabal Coffers and others are allowed while this isn't. It's very powerful, yes, but in the same vein, there are also other powerful cards that are allowed. This is kind of like the same argument that might be said about Ancestral Recall that okay, draw 3 is it's too strong. But there is actually the Ancestral Vision, which is another version of the card which is a little slower, but you can technically also cast for free in some instances.
Mm.
So, I think that Tolarian Academy, well, okay, there's not that much land hate anymore. People don't really run strip mines or wastelands anymore, but it might actually help bring back a little bit of land hate in people's builds. And you're getting pigeonholed into blue. You don't have to run mono blue. You can
Hmm.
run any other version and a lot of artifacts, but again, you're again getting pigeonholed into blue and artifacts. Something as simple as a collector oath or the collected hate of all three opponents will probably destroy you.
People will hate on Tolarian Academy that much.
So yeah, dorks without haste require colored mana, whereas artifacts just require colorless mana. Okay, so yes, that's true. That it relies on colorless permanents. But again, you have to spend resources to get everything in the game. So artifacts that produce mana, okay, Talarian produces mana without an outlet like Urza, so to speak. I would rather maybe ban Urza than the Talarian Academy if that's the case.
Uh,
Because you have to spend the mana, you have to sink it somewhere, really. But there are other effects that produce so much more mana. There are even now green effects that triple the mana that you produce.
mm.
Bonder Prodigy is legal and pretty much also adds on to any mana that a non-land permanent would produce.
Nyx Bloom Ancient times 3. Remember?
Yep, I
Thi-
know. I mean, I've seen these builds that triple or even multiply the amount of mana to such high degrees, and it's all in green. And Gaia's Cradle is allowed there, and
yeah.
there's even ways to untap target lands with them.
Mm.
So it is so abused in a different color, and green is arguably one of the strongest colors in Commander. Why is this specific card banned while the others aren't? So instead, okay, fine, I'll reverse the argument. If we're not gonna unban Tolarian Academy, ban the other lands.
Yeah. I mean, put that in the Simic deck, then that's just crazy,
Yeah, have a Cradle and a Academy together.
right? Put it all in
So
that.
okay, I
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off my soapbox now, and you know,
Why? It's a valid
I mean,
argument.
yeah, I mean, it's like, I would rather it be unbanned to just to be
Hmm.
fair, or fine, banned the Cradle and Coffers, even though it was just reprinted.
Why ban it? Don't you run Wasteland or Stripped Mine in your deck? I do.
I'd start running it again if this was unbanned, and it's fair. It's a fair argument. I
Yeah,
mean,
I have it.
that's right. There are other lands that I mean, Urza lands can be played, but okay, you need all three of them to get like some effect.
Mm.
Okay, this isn't going to untap with Dramatic Scepter.
Mm.
Maybe again with the Prophet of Krufrix or Seedborn, yeah, you can abuse Tolarian Academy. So I get it. That's why I put this in number one because I really think that there's a lot of arguments to be made for this card specifically. I am
Yeah.
so on board with unbanning it or banning the rest just to keep things fair. And so with that,
Life's
with
not fair.
keeping things fair, we go to a not recent. This is maybe several months back already,
Mm-hmm.
but this
Mm-hmm.
would be one of the bannings of 2021
Mm-hmm.
that was very contentious within the Magic community. Well, specific to Commander players, because no, none of the other formats can run this.
Yeah.
So why ban more cards? Because Blue
Exactly
deserves
right.
it. Blue deserves it, man. Blue
Just
deserves the
unban it.
Untitled
Let
Academy.
everyone play with it.
So wait, sorry. Let's some comments. Some comments.
Hmm.
So Mikey's for unbanning the academy, but rules committee's point that there are way more zero or one to cast artifacts than zero or one to cast creatures. Okay, fair enough. That's why. So again, I mean, with all of these arguments in mind, just then don't let the cradle run because it just doesn't feel fair at all to me.
It's a valid argument until the green snowballs.
Yeah.
All right, there's less 0/1 creatures for green, but
See,
it snowballs
there
into something
there are
huge.
people who are prepared for it.
I am. I like you to have fun, but I'll have fun at your expense. That's what EDH is, isn't it?
Yes, and speaking of having fun at other players' expense, let us go over your number one card.
This is the main reason why I took this guesting was to get on my soapbox and my high horse. My high horse is on a soapbox and to talk about the virtues of Hull Breacher in the EDH format. At first, I have to say though, at first, when I heard in our group that it got banned, I'm like, "Pff, no wonder no one plays the French ban list." And then I heard it was for
For
our
multiplayer.
EDH. Yeah, I was like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, we've seen my first time to use Hull Breacher was against you. That was memorable. Remember, we were playing in Green Hills.
Yes.
So I play Wheel of Fortune, and then you were like on the stack. I'm like, man, he's gonna counter it, and then and then you play Valakut's Awakening, right?
Yes.
And you tuck in two more cards. I'm like, cha-ching. I'm like on the stack, Hull Breacher. So I got 30, 2 plus 40, 16 treasures in that one turn because we were playing with Mark, remember?
Right.
But that was the first time. Eventually, it just became a free for all. Everyone's running Hull Breacher. Remember that one time we had two Hull Breachers at the table? You were like
Yeah, then you have to
choosing
choose your targets, right?
who your friend who had a better board state to help. Oh,
Yeah,
you
you
can
can
be
have
the
the
one with the
treasure.
treasure, right? So that's how you deal with it. You
It's
don't
also
like
a
it.
three. Also a 3-2. Its toughness is actually very squishy. It's very easy to kill.
Hmm. You just take it with your gilded drake anyway. If you had you play it, you know what I'm saying? Or
Right.
kill it or clone it. Take it with the perplexing chimera. I mean,
One of the arguments that they made for this is that something like Leovold got banned because denying your opponent's cards and essentially grinding the game to a halt, like unless you're immediately winning, is not really in the spirit of EDH. So Narset does the same effect, but
yeah.
Narset can be killed. This
Oh,
here,
hmm,
this doesn't have to block, and it technically denies draw and then rewards you with treasure. I
hmm.
think that if they just let you keep your cards and you got treasure, like smothering tight style, it may have been better in terms of like its power level.
Again, so now we're dealing with the WEDH people that don't run spot removal, apparently. Because anyone that plays in our groups have spot removal, has
Yes, or even
mass
bounce.
destruction, bounce. We're prepared. Whatever comes down, we're okay. I don't understand why they have to ban it for everyone. I guess one of the people took a shining after getting displayed on them. But to me, it's a fun thing. You've done. I remember you doing. What's this? The blue card. Uh, you count how many cards you got. The most number, and you discard all your hand
Windfall,
and windfall, and then you play Hull Breacher. It's like,
right?
oh well. Now you're counting on the top of your deck to deal with it. It's like, huh. All right. But even in that instant, free windfall, and then you play hull breacher, you have a chance to respond, can't you?
Yes. So
Oh.
you can counter this spell.
Hmm.
You can still react to it entering the battlefield before
Yeah.
any draw effect is settled.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have any additional draw spells and you're just really drawing as you normally would, you're not affected by this. You can
Exactly.
focus your hate on the wheel effect that will come
Hmm.
after.
Sure.
So there are enough opportunities, I think, to answer it. But it is really like a kill on sight. It redirects resources towards it. So I mean, there were already a lot of arguments made for it, and like I own two copies of this. I wouldn't mind it being unbanned. So
I
I'm
sold
on
all my
board.
copies.
I'm on board with your suggestion to unban it, but um, I don't know. It apparently was enough of a terrible experience for some people on the RC to just flat out ban it.
Oh. You know what's a bad experience? World Gorger and Animate Dead
Animated. Hell yeah.
for 3 straight games. But it's a game. My God, I won't ban your cards because you like playing it. It's like I have to figure out how to beat you, right? Isn't that what this game is for?
Well, I agree. Actually, here, somebody actually also mirrored your sentiments earlier that if you don't have spot removal, how about doing player removal?
Yeah, that's true. Or in the case of Aaron, we just wait for 5 o'clock. He removes himself. No, I'm just kidding.
Self removing spells.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah, number
well, I
one
mean,
is
I sold two of the 3 copies I had, which were three in my decks. It was definitely a must put in, just like Dockside. If you're running red, you gotta have it. Or
right.
Smothering Tide when it first came out. If you had white, you gotta put it. Right?
There are a lot of cards that are almost at that level that you should be running it if you have it. That if you're not, you may really be specifically building your deck like almost against efficiency. So it's really to each their own how they build, and I don't want to dictate how people should build their decks, but at the
They
same
shouldn't.
time, I really think that players should also be okay with other players running some powerful cards.
There's a
When you
comment.
when yeah, oh, here, thank from Mikey. Hi, Mikey. I'm honestly okay with Huddle Breacher being banned. Yes, it weaponized wheel effects, but you know what? Smothering Tithe does the same thing, and Notion Thief does the same thing.
I remember Mikey playing Valakut in one of our ATC games. So
Yeah,
I mean
he
that
has. Yeah, he
that's
also.
that's targeted.
Yeah, I think he runs. Yeah, he has an Omnath deck. He has the Bear
Yeah.
deck.
I think
Trying
it
to
was the
remember.
Omnat. It was the Omnat deck. It was
Um.
like he had a lot of elementals, and I did Wind of Abandon.
Oh, okay. That would be the Omnath deck.
Then with he had the Valakut out, so he cut all his mountains. And
Oh,
then
wow, it's all instant kill to one player.
if you didn't have the fairies protection that I had.
Okay, good play, good play.
But I mean, that's why we play Magic. These
Right.
memories, banning these cards, we don't have these memories, these stories that we tell each other. I mean, he got me a lot of times also, but I mean, sometimes I get him or whoever. Sometimes, not all the time, especially you, combo
Well,
player.
fair enough. So, actually, wait, we're gonna bring the episode a little bit down, like wind it down. We're a little over an
Hmm.
hour, which is good. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a good conversation. Um, Thank you to to everyone who commented and shared their thoughts on our top 5 picks. I was surprised that we didn't get to see some recommendations or what people felt should be unbanned, but
Hmm.
it's nice that some people are behind the ban and they understand why, and there are also those that have their thoughts as to why they also agree with us that some of these cards don't necessarily have to be unbanned.
Mm.
And again, this is a kitchen table casual format that always encourages your group to even house rule your bannings. So, like, oh,
Yeah.
no, we don't allow infect in our group. So be it. I mean, that's your group. So, going through the ban list is always something that is, can be discussed. If you really want to
Mikey,
run these things, there's an argument to be made. Here,
Mikey has
one,
an.
yeah, one suggestion: coalition victory. Yes, you are stuck playing 5 colors. There's
Mm.
not that many commanders that you want to run with it, and pretty
I,
much, yeah,
I
you
was
can.
looking at it, but I think I felt that that should be unbanned because why you have approach of the second sun? It's so conditional. Why not this one, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so it is
You
something
put
that
it.
you can bring up.
eh, You put it in a slivers deck. Oh, but it's like five basic lands and five creatures of five colors or five colors in creatures.
Here, let me pull it up.
Good suggestion, Mikey. I'm for it. I'm also for unbanning cards so that people will buy it
All
with
right,
my
so
passerby.
coalition victory. Let me put it up on screen just for the argument here, so that people can see what Mikey was talking about. So let me share. Here we go. Let's get that up on screen.
Share with the class.
Here
Oh,
we
here we
go.
go.
Yep. So coalition victory reads as follows: it is 3 colorless and one of every color, so that is 8 to cast. It is a sorcery. You win the game if you control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. So technically, it is arguable that if you have a 5 color creature, which is most likely your commander, like if you run. Well, actually, commander color identity is different from color of each creature. So a Morphon isn't going to work,
Mm.
but if you are running, let's say, for example, Child of Alara, it is
Mm.
all 5 colors. And you just need all the basic land types. So dual lands can also meet those land type effects, but you'd still maybe need at least 3 of them in the game.
Yeah, but
So,
you're paying 8 for this spell.
right.
So
So you need at least 3 dual lands to cover all the land types. You need one 5 color creature, and you also need to cast an 8 to cast spell. So there are 3 requirements here, and you can easily disrupt one of it before the spell even resolves.
mhm.
Like I cast coalition victory. In response, I bounce one of your creatures to your hand. So
Mm.
that the spell doesn't do anything.
I don't know why it was banned then to begin with.
Oh, another one. Okay. Fast bond. Okay. But you know what? Fast bond is just I mean, I thought about it. It's way too easy to break.
To the
It
detriment of your life.
No, but it puts the lands in untapped. So you can really find a way to just get so much in. Oh, Gino, thoughts on Golos? So let me get Golos on screen for those that are not familiar with Golos. So we are talking about Golos Tireless Pilgrim.
My favorite, one of
So
my
he
favorite.
is a 5 to cast legendary artifact creature scout. He is 3/5, which is not bad. When he enters the battlefield, you can search your library for any land and put it into play tapped. And then he also has an effect of paying 2 colorless and 7. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may cast them without paying their cost. So he is actually one of the recent bannings that was
Hmm.
added into the commander ban list. I
Yeah.
think that I can see how he pretty much will just be the definitive 5 color commander. That what's the point of running any other 5 color commander? So he's just that good. And
Definitely good. I built two different builds on with him. Remember,
yeah,
it was big creatures and then it was landfall. I think the landfall was really. I was just playing solitaire at that point. eventually each game.
But you know what? There's an argument to be made that banning him doesn't necessarily fix anything, and I am actually I subscribe or agree with that argument.
What are
That
we fixing with banning?
banning Golos didn't really fix a problem. Hull Breacher wheels got weaponized. Okay, what exactly did Golos weaponize other than Field of the Dead?
No, every time I'd play him, you guys would respond with like a spot removal or a
Yeah,
counter
it just
spell.
gets hate. That's why you don't let it live, or
Yeah.
you steal it away, or so you. There are ways to deal with it, but I guess
Yeah.
the fact that it's five color, that it looks for a land, and then it has a really strong effect. This is that it became a go-to for all players that were starting in the format, and it's not bad. I mean, it's a pretty good template, really, to toolbox as much as you want. So I don't particularly agree with the philosophy to the banning. That's why I subscribe
Mhm.
to the idea of it doesn't really banning it didn't fix anything.
You're right though, because when I had this deck, Golos deck, my toolbox was in form of land, and we have a friend that plays what's his name, Godo,
Yes, go the
our
bandit
very
warlord,
good friend, and the one time I actually got him was I blinked Golos to get Bajuka Bog, so he couldn't target
graveyard.
his graveyard that one
Right.
time. But I mean, it's just one of those things. But he got us the rest of the time. Again, EDH just for memories. You know,
Right,
I
right.
don't.
I agree. Oh, one other recommendation here. So unban Prophet,
Mm,
Primeval Titan, and then Sylvan Primordial, please. Wow, all green. I can see where you're going here, Aaron. And green doesn't need any more help.
yeah, I remember playing. I we were playing with Sylvan Primordial before it got banned, and it was kind of broken, but
Yes.
you can deal with it. Primeval Titan though, that's been banned for a while, but we got to play with it with Oathbreaker, and that killed that format real quick because they didn't have the same ban list. I guess they were just making this rules committee.
Oh, so here we actually have some comments here from Mikey. From what I read, the rules committee banned Golos simply because it homogenized the format. Yeah, I agree. It's flimsy. I don't agree with again the philosophy to the banning.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, cl- click on Gino's there.
they play with a literal family of Golos players.
You know, one
Was
time I played.
challenging. Okay.
Yeah, one time I played a pod of seven of us. All of us had Golos decks.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
wild.
I guess that was what the rules committee was saying, that it homogenized the play group, but that was just one deck of everyone else had other decks. It was fun showing them how a real Golos deck should work.
Right. I mean, the argument can be made that Golos itself was just like a whole good stuff deck. That it's five colors, and then you can pretty much it's so flexible that it can go either way. You
Mm-hmm.
like I've played against a Golos that was mono black actually, and was a turbo Adnos deck. I've gone against yours that was built on extra turns and landfall. I've gone against another version that was really built towards blinking Golos over and over to
Mm.
go get lands after mass land destruction.
And then I played with a Golos deck that no one paid attention to. That was a Gates deck. He won. Everyone was focusing on me and my big creatures, and we just let this other guy in ATC just walk away. Oh, he's at gates already. Oh, I
So
mean,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of memories that are tied in with these
hmm,
games, and I think that we may have had very different experiences from people who have decided to ban these cards. So we aren't part of the rules committee. So again, this episode is really made as like to share our thoughts and opinions on what we feel should be unbanned. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't necessarily agree with certain things here, and I do have my personal arguments to why I feel some cards should be unbanned. And I really, I thank you for coming on the episode and sharing your thoughts too.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, man. Let's do this again.
Oh, here we go, free hull breacher
Yeah, hashtag.
with a hashtag, sure.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
one more recurring nightmare. No, 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 no. I love animator decks, but I gotta tell you, man, no.
What does this do again?
Here, let me
As
bring it up on screen. You don't know what you're asking for. No, this one's a little busted. So, okay, let's add this back in. Okay, so we are looking at recurring nightmare. So, pretty much recurring nightmare is an enchantment. And sacrifice a creature, return recurring nightmare to its owner's hand, and then you can return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. So basically, you can do a sacrifice animate loop with this very, very easily.
mm,
So the fact that it doesn't necessarily attach itself to
mm,
any creature
mm,
is what kind of breaks it.
mm.
So yeah, even other people are bringing up, yep, the Marin Reanimator Black Green
Ah,
builds would love to have recurring nightmare back.
sure.
So
Yeah.
I disagree only because this is another format warping animator. But you know
But
what? Again,
you deal with it,
but
right?
that's what this conversation is about. I
Yeah.
mean, if your group is cool with you running it, sure, why not,
Yeah.
right? All right, so let's bring this up to a close. Thank you, Marco, so much for joining me in today's episode, and I think that we got a lot of feedback and thoughts from people.
Yes.
So, you know what? If you guys have also suggestions on what else you'd like to talk about on future episodes, please be sure to leave a comment below. For those that really stuck around through the whole hour, a near hour and a half, thank you so much. Um, Again, personal opinions. None of this is law, and we're just sharing our thoughts on the format. And I
Yeah.
love playing Commander, and I really hope that people are enjoying paper magic or even digital. I mean, even if you are playing on Arena or such with your friends, it's I would consider one of the best games ever created, arguably.
Yes.
So again, if you can see on the bottom here in the bottom right, you have Cardcore and you also have the Guild of Mages here with our CPO. Thank you very much, Marco. Any shout outs, any mentions before we wrap up?
Well, from the people that are watching, thank you. And I have to thank you, Javi, for having me here. I have to say that mustache is really Spanish of you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The villain
Muy bueno, muy
lifestyle.
bueno. Yes. Guapo. Suave. And
This
those
is not
other
the way I
words.
wanted to end this episode.
Life curveballs all the time.
How very true. All right. So with that, thank you everyone. Till the
Thanks,
next Sunday
guys.
Night Magic. Keep safe. Keep gaming.